Hey guys, I'm Dava, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here with the Beastmen in the forests of Norden, going to be taking on the Tomb Kings. So for those of you guys who watch my channel for a long time, back in Game 1, I used to play quite a few battles on Norden. It's one of my favorite maps in the multiplayer rotation. And the Beastmen are one of my favorite factions to take on this map. And before we take a look at the builds, let's take a look at the map first of all. It's a very interesting map in that it has quite a few different terrain features, lots of broken up terrain and woods. So let's go ahead and take a look. On the one deployment side, you have this large forested hill here, where you can see I've deployed my forces towards the front. We've also got this low ground over here. On this far side of the map here, you've got these series of ridges and forests, with another large patch of forest back here. Then there's another large hill that kind of runs like this, with the ridge line here. And yeah, you can see it's heavily forested. So it just the terrain allows for a lot of different interesting kind of counterplay, and one of the reasons the Beastmen excel in a situation like this, well, there are a myriad of reasons. So first of all, Centaurs are incredibly fast and hard-hitting, and you can take Centaurs with throwing axes who have a heavy AP missile attack and can bait out unfavorable engagements, siphon off high-value units, and draw things into ambushes. You can see I've got 2 units of Centaurs waiting in ambush here. And what also makes the Beastmen very good, particularly in heavily forested maps, is many of their large units do not suffer from forest penalties. So, for example, if we look at these Minotaurs with shields here, they have this no forest penalty trait, which most of the Beastmen large units have. Even like the Beastmen Giant, for example, and the Chaos Spawn all have this no forest penalty, which many of their counterparts do not have. So it makes them adept at fighting in this kind of terrain. Minotaurs in particular, because they have relatively low armor and they're pretty expensive, it's advantageous to fight in the woods because number one, you're going to be hit by less missile fire, and number two, if enemy large units try and take on your Minotaurs in the woods, you're going to get a substantial advantage because they'll be suffering from those forest penalties. So now that we've got that out of the way and kind of had a little discussion with the map, let's go ahead and take a look at the builds. I've got a front line here of Ungor Spearman Herd, just kind of a meat shield. We've got Gore Herds with shields as a nice, relatively cheap option. These guys will cut through most skeletons relatively easily. They also have that missile block chance. We've got the 2 Minotaurs with shields to deal armor piercing to constructs. Morgr the Shadowgave, of course, for the Chaos Spawn summons. A Bray Shaman Lore of Shadows here on a chariot. He's carrying Enfeebling Foe and the Penumbral Pendulum, which you guys know I'm a huge fan of. Enfeebling Foe is also a really nice spell in almost any matchup. And yeah, we've got the 2 Centaurs with throwing axes and the 2 Centaurs with gray weapons as well. So for my opponent's Tomb King build, he's got 1 unit of Bow Shabti, which on this map, a Bow Shabti are obviously a very strong unit, but on this map I would recommend against taking them or any kind of direct line of fire artillery. Any kind of artillery, for that matter, on this map is a bit of a gamble. Even that can shoot in an arc of fire, just because there's so much wood and terrain that it's really easy to kind of advance. If you were to deploy artillery here, thinking, okay, I've got, this kind of open ground I can shoot in here, then I can just advance my force up this side of the hill, and because this ridge line blocks line of fire, I can get almost on top of you. That being said, my opponent is going to move these Bow Shabti up to the ridgeline, I would hope, so he can get some shots down on my troops. He's also got a Tomb King on a what is this thing? A War Sphinx, which did get a little bit of a nerf in that it actually got fixed. It doesn't constantly apply its charge bonus anymore. He's also got a Lich Priest Lore of Death with Spirit Leech and Fate Abuna. We've got a Tomb Prince as well on a chariot with Tomb Strike, which gives him terror, very strong ability against the Beastmen, as well as the Guardian for that 22% physical resistance on the Lord, as long as he stays nearby. The infantry is going to consist of Skeleton Spearmen mixed in with Tomb Guard. Looks like we've got 3 Tomb Guard, 4 Tomb Guard, 2 Skeleton Spears, 1 unit of regular Skeleton Archers, a regular Necro Sphinx, and yeah, that pretty much rounds it out. I believe is there a unit of Ushabti in here? Yeah, also a unit of melee Ushabti. So let's go ahead and kick things into full gear, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So you can see those Ushabti Greatbows are able to fire up and over this ridge here. They're getting some okay shots. They should be shooting at my Minotaurs, but this is one of the reasons I bring Minotaurs with shields, is they do have a missile block chance. Now, I'm not 100% sure that this applies to the missile fire of the Ushabti great bows. I know it doesn't apply for infantry. It counts as artillery against infantry, but I'm wondering if the Minotaur's missile block chance is able to block artillery shots or demi-artillery shots. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to get him charging in here. Just a really nice fat charge, just getting straight in there with the armor-piercing damage, trying to deal with that Ushabti. You can see my opponent dropping some spells there. Probably going to be a Spear Leech on Morkar, which honestly is not the best. Morkar does have a nice magic resistance. So this... seeing as how this Necrosphinx has decided he wants to chase my Centaurs with Greyapens, I'm perfectly fine with that, so we're just going to lead him on a Wild Goose Chase, because all the time that these Centaurs with Greyapens are leading him away, he's not going to be generating value. That's going to allow my Centaurs with Throwing Axes to kind of get up in the back line, and we're going to come up here and start throwing axes at the Greatbow Ushabti and potentially charge in on the Skeleton Archers as well. The Ungor Spearmen are going to be pretty decent against the Skeleton Spears. They're honestly pretty solid for a low-tier Spearman because of that Primal Fury buff that all Beastmen units get. Makes them a pretty cost-effective low-tier Spear unit. They just have a little bit shaky leadership, but you can see the Realm of Souls going off there. This Tomb King's fighting in here. He hasn't taken too much damage yet, but neither have the Minotaurs. Meanwhile, the Tomb King's infantry, these Tomb Guard, have just taken an absolute beating from these Minotaurs here. You can see them in here just breaking the bones, cutting them into pieces. And yeah, this Tomb King, although he hasn't taken too much damage yet, and there come the Chaos Spawn summons, also going to be just getting in here, blocking up the Tomb King. So at this point, my opponent probably needs to pull back. You can see we've been able to inundate these Skeleton Archers fairly effectively, and I just threw in my Brave Shaman Lord of Shadows to tie down these Ushabti Greatbows. Although he's probably going to take a lot of damage in this fight, he does do some armor piercing, and he can at least keep these guys from firing for a decent amount of time. We're going to be dropping a Penumbral Pendulum right across the line here, just cleaving apart some of these Tomb Guard here. It's going to be very good against those relatively high-value, low-armor units. You can see the Minotaurs have taken very little damage on this front. On this front, they're taking a little bit more damage, but we're starting to be able to focus on the Tomb King since most of the chaff is gone at this point. You can see the Necrosphinx has finally come back from its Wild Goose Chase. It was able to catch me a little bit there, but just the amount of time that this thing was gone, it's generated so much value already. And you can see the Mountains of Power was pretty well in my favor. He just drew up his Ushabti summon on top of my other unit of summoned Chaos Spawn here, so we're going to get the battle of the summoned monstrous infantry here, as well as the Necrosphinx going to be chopping through them in the back. But a lot of the Tomb King's infantry is pretty beat up. These Tomb Guard and these Skeleton Spearmen have managed to somewhat beat my Ungor herd, and the Brave Shaman Lord of Shadows did take quite a bit of damage from those Bow Ushabti, and then the Tomb Prince was able to deal with him in a battle of chariots. But yeah, we've been able to crumble those Skeleton Archers, so now I can just park my Centaurs with Throwing Axes and just throw the axes in from the side, do a ton of armor-piercing damage to this Necrosphinx here. And the Minotaurs are still holding strong in the center. You know, they have taken quite a bit of damage, but another reason to take the shielded variant of Minotaurs is they have better melee defense. These ones have managed to pick up an XP chevron through combat, but still, 48 melee defense, very good stuff. We brought in the Centaurs with Greyapens now for a supporting charge. Going to be doing some nice armor-piercing shock damage. They can get terrified relatively easily, so I'm not expecting them to hang around for too long, but they're going to be doing some nice extra damage here, and just really harming the leadership more than anything of this Necrosphinx. You can see the Tomb King's infantry is almost entirely crumbled away at this point, just one unit of Tomb Guard holding on out here, and some Skeleton Spearmen out here. But that Fate of Yuna from the Lich Priest there is not going to be able to save the Tomb Kings, unfortunately. At this point, it's just a monster mash, absolute monster mash in here, with the Minotaurs fighting up against the Necrosphinx and the Tomb King on the Kemrian War Sphinx here. So, oh man, that Minotaur just got chucked around, but you can see the Minotaurs on the side, though, are continuously getting attacks in here, and the Throwing Axes as well are pretty much firing away with impunity. These Bow Ushabti are still alive, but I've been able to keep them tied down for most of the battle, so they really haven't gotten too much work done. You can see Morkar has taken a beating himself, but due to the fact that he regenerates, and my opponent did not bring the Fire Necrosphinx, granted, maybe a little bit of a wash. Let's go ahead and see here. 25% magic resistance and 25% weakness to fire. So because that Regiment of Renown Necrosphinx does do fire and magic, I think it would pretty much just be a wash at the end of the day. But yeah, you can see Morkar being being isolated a little bit here, a little bit sloppy on my part, honestly, getting him isolated by the Tomb Prince and everything here, but I'm so far ahead on the balance of power that I think things are going to be okay. I mean, we could potentially run into a terror situation, but I still have so much ammo on these Centaurs with throwing axes. You can see we're just finishing off the Shabti Great Bows now. And yeah, going to be a victory for the Beastmen. We'll go ahead and grab some cinematic action as the Beastmen fight through the forest here. Very fitting and, you know, lore-friendly and all that, so fun stuff. Man, that Necrosphinx is a beautiful unit model, probably one of my favorite unit models in the game, but he's just completely surrounded by Ungors and Gors and Centigors and all the Gors, just being gored to absolute pieces. So, yeah, just a few seconds left in the battle here. You can see Morgar's got himself to smack around that Tomb Prince a little bit, and just due to the disintegration from army losses, he is going to go down. So, very well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that battle. It's an interesting matchup, you know, Tomb Kings versus Beastmen. I've seen this matchup quite a few times, and honestly can go either way. I do think the Centaurs with throwing axes are the key. Centaurs with great weapons I'm a little bit underwhelmed by in this matchup, just because they just can't stand up to the terror of the constructs. I mean, they're okay against Ushabti, but anything higher tier than Ushabti, you know, like Tomb Scorpions, War Sphinxes, Hyrule Titans, they just can't stand up to the terror very well. So I do think the Centaurs with throwing axes are a little bit better option because they can deal that armor-piercing damage at range. That being said, the Minotaurs did fairly well for me here because of the nature of the map, and yeah, we were able to draw away that Necrosphinx. It did come back in the fourth quarter and get some really nice damage done, but by that time I'd crumbled away enough of the Tomb Guard that it didn't matter too much. 49 kills on the Brave Shaman Lower Shadows, helping to clear up some of that Tomb Guard. With I missed one of them, but he got two really nice pendulums. I managed to catch the other one, but you can see 62 kills on Ungor Spearman Herd. What I was saying is, yeah, they're quite cost effective. They will probably lose out to Skeleton Spearman just because Skeleton Spearman cause fear. I might actually test that out sometime, but yeah, very well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.